welcome to another edition of the Spyder's Web, live from the Bucks room. I'm Spyder. Hope you enjoyed the NFL draft, because we're definitely going to recap what happened in that NFL draft. What did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do? Who did they draft? It was kind of a shocker. We're going to break down all their picks. We're also going to break down other teams around the NFL, not just the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because this is not just a Tampa Bay Buccaneers show. It's actually a football show / sports talk show. You know, some teams left me kind of scratching my head on what they did. Some teams, I think, pretty much did what they always do, draft well. We're also going to get into the NBA playoffs and see what teams have an opportunity to go to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. And we're also going to talk about the Junior Seau situation. Again, I'm Spyder. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Spyder's Web on YouTube and Facebook. And getting to it, the NFL draft for me wasn't really a surprise. I told you. There was going to be a lot of trades, and that's why you needed to watch. So if you were shocked by that, well, you heard it here first. There was going to be a lot of trades. So getting to the Buccaneers, they were supposed to pick at 5. We all assumed, I assumed, that they were going to go and get Morris Claiborne, the best cover corner in the draft. But that's not exactly what happened. In fact, Jacksonville decided to trade up. Well, let me just, first things first, there was rumors that the Buccaneers were going to go after Trent Richardson, which is what I was in favor of. I wanted them to go after Trent Richardson, go out there, trade up for him. I thought he would solidify their running back position because I really believe that he was the best player in this draft. But lo and behold, the Cleveland Browns decided to give up a 4th, 5th, and 7th round selection to get up to that number 3 spot to get Trent Richardson. So I think all the plans kind of went by the wayside. If you believe Mark Dominic, he said that he was never in favor of trading up for Trent Richardson. It was never even a conversation. So I'll take him at his word. But I really do think the Buccaneers, that organization, did want to go after Trent Richardson. And as soon as the Cleveland Browns decided to trade up to Minnesota's pick, then I think the plan kind of changed. And with that plan changing, the Jacksonville Jaguars wanted to help their quarterback out. We talked about it. That was the motto of my mock draft, which, by the way, I did 50%, which wasn't bad, although the first 2 picks were kind of easy. The other 3 were okay, and of course I got the Buccaneer pick wrong. But the Jacksonville Jaguars go up and get Justin Blackmon for a 4th round pick. Now, at the time when this happened, I was very upset because I thought, well, the Buccaneers are trading down to 7. At least they would get more in return from the Jacksonville Jaguars. But it did not happen. They only got a 4th round pick. And they decided to take a shocker happen. I thought Morris Claiborne would be there. I didn't think the Rams would take him. I thought they would take probably Michael Floyd or somebody else. The Rams didn't do that. In fact, the Cowboys traded up to the 6th spot for Morris Claiborne. And that left the Buccaneers at 7 to take safety Mark Barron. Wow. I was at the draft party, and there were boos. I thought, at first, this was a reach. Now, I'm an emotional person, especially when it comes to football. So I did my research, and I actually don't think it was a reach. And this is why. He was a captain at Alabama for the Alabama Crimson Tide on their defense. He was basically the quarterback. He's great in run coverage. He can tackle. You come up and play the box. He's a solid tackler. Now, he's not great on coverage, and that could be the reach part. This team last year was 29th in giving up yards in the passing game, and they gave up 494 points. Basically, they were a bad defense. I think a lot of fans thought that they were going to go after Claiborne or Richardson, and when they didn't get those 2 players, well, it was basically a failure. But it's not. I'm here to tell you right now, Mark Barron is the type of Greg Schiano player that you're going to see in the future, hopefully. He's hard-nosed. He's a great tackler. He's physical. Maybe he's not great in coverage, but you know what? Neither was John Lynch. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to compare this guy to John Lynch, but when you draft a guy at 7, he better be pretty special. Now, saying that, they get that 4th round pick, and they decide to get up in the 1st round because, again, they had a need at running back. The Buccaneers' running back situation last year was not very good, especially when Ernest Graham went out. LeGarrette Blount, we talked about his struggles as a blocker, as a guy that can catch the ball. So it made sense for them to go after a running back. So what did they do? Mark Dominic, the genius that he is, and I'll give him credit. I've been very critical of him in the past, but he did a great job by taking that 4th round pick that he got from Jacksonville, trading up ahead of the New York Giants and going out and getting Doug Martin, who was the 2nd best running back in this draft. And I made a comparison. I said that I thought Trent Richardson was a lot like Ray Rice. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm going to take that back, because I actually think Doug Martin is more like Ray Rice, and the fact that he's not as explosive as Ray Rice, but he's a guy that can do it all. He can block, he can catch. He's had some big plays at Boise State, but again, he doesn't have that overwhelming speed. But he is an upgrade over LeGarrette Blount, and I think now the Buccaneers have their feature back. Now you can use Blount on short yardage. Maybe Blount steps up his game. You know what they say about competition. It drives those players to get better. So 2 great 1st round picks by the Buccaneers. Now they didn't stop there. Mark Dominic wasn't done. He had a plan. We talked about this, during the previous shows. What were they going to do at linebacker? They didn't do anything at linebacker free agency. There were so many questions about this position alone. Middle linebacker, Mason Foster. Was he going to be your starting middle linebacker? Were they going to move him to the weak side? Well, we got the answer to our questions, basically. They go up, they trade into the 2nd round, they get Levante David. 6 foot, 233 out of Nebraska. And this guy can play sideline to sideline. He is kind of in the same mold as Derrick Brooks. And I really don't want to say he's Derrick Brooks. I don't like to make those comparisons, but I think a lot of Tampa Bay fans can identify David as being that type of player. So far, so good. They don't have a 4th round pick because, of course, they traded out for Doug Martin. So they go in the 5th round. They get more depth to this position. And Najee Good from West Virginia, 6'1", 244. He's versatile. He can play the middle. He can play the outside. So now you see this whole plan coming together. Greg Schiano, Mark Dominic, Butch Davis deserve credit because they scouted out these players in college. They know what these guys can do. It was a great draft overall. They go out, they get Keith Tandy in the next round. He's not spectacular, but he's a solid cornerback. And you get a guy by the name of Michael Smith, who was a running back from Utah State, and a lot of people compare him to Darren Sproles. And if he's anything like Darren Sproles, I think he hit a home run by getting him in the 6th round. So the Buccaneers, I think, knocked it out of the park. They did everything that I think they could do. You can't fill every position, and even though I was a Claiborne guy, and I still think it might come back and haunt them, this could be a reach pick. But I understand, because you get rid of Tenard Jackson, who missed more tackles last year than any other Buccaneer. The Buccaneers were 2nd in the league in missing tackles. This team was built on stopping the run, and that's exactly what Mark Barron is. He's a guy that's going to stop the run. Now, is he great in coverage? Again, I'm not sure about that. But if you're going to draft somebody at 7, he better be pretty special. He better be Ed Reed. He better be in that upper echelon of safety. So overall, the Buccaneers did a good job. Now, other teams that really stuck out to me. Indianapolis, great job by drafting Andrew Luck. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion when they got rid of Peyton Manning that this was going to happen. But a quarterback is only as good as his weapons around him. And what did the Indianapolis Colts do? Well, they did some good things. They go out, they get Dwayne Allen out of Clemson. He's a lot like Algie Crumpler in the fact that he can get separation. He's never going to mistake. He's never going to be a tight end that's going to be able to block. He's a pass-catching tight end. He gives the Indianapolis Colts another weapon because they really didn't have a tight end there. You get Kobe Fleener from Stanford, who's familiar with Andrew Luck. You get a guy like Ty Hilton, who was a wide receiver that was great at FIU, and he's a burner. So I thought they did some good things by putting weapons around Andrew Luck. That was very smart on their part because I think it's going to be hard the next couple years for Andrew Luck. They don't have an offensive line there. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough transition period, but I think the kid's going to be good. The Cleveland Browns. They gave up a lot to get Trent Richardson, but I think they almost had to make that selection. They had to go out and get him because he was the best player in their draft. They had a weakness at running back. They get rid of Peyton Hillis. They get the best player in the draft who's physical, can do all the things that we talked about. They get Brandon Weeden, who's probably their next starting quarterback. They basically told Colt McCoy that they weren't going to draft a quarterback, and they get Brandon Weeden. Now, everybody's saying about the guy's age. He's 28, 29 years old. He probably has 6, 7, 8 years. But you had to go out and get a quarterback to solidify the position. So I think when they got Brandon Weeden in the first round, I think it's a good move. So Weeden and Richardson. The thing that left me kind of scratching my head is you didn't fill the wide receiver position. You didn't help your quarterback out. You get Brandon Weeden and you don't get him any wide receivers. You go with the receivers you had last year, Greg Little, Massaquoi, whoever else is there. I mean, that's going to be a weakness. That's going to be something to watch. You might be able to slow down the game with Trent Richardson, but you didn't help out your quarterback because you didn't get him a wide receiver. So now you passed on Justin Blackmon and Julio Jones the last couple of years. This could come back and bite the Browns in the ass. Now, other teams that I thought kind of left me scratching my head here, it was a little bit of a mixed bag. The Rams, they wanted Blackmon at 6. They thought that Blackmon was going to drop down to them, and he could be a weapon for Bradford for years to come. They don't get him. Dallas trades up, of course, gets Claiborne. Good job by Dallas. That's going to be a formidable secondary. But the Rams, they trade down out of the 6th spot instead of taking Michael Floyd. Again, this is one of the things that I talked about. Help out your quarterback. Michael Floyd could be better than Justin Blackmon, and he traded down to 14 to be cute because he thought he was going to be there. Not so fast, my friend. I'm going to steal it from Lee Corso again. The Arizona Cardinals took him because they know his talent. Again, he could be the best wide receiver in this draft besides Blackmon. He could be better than Blackmon. So they get Michael Broadhurst. He's a defensive tackle. He's got a lot of potential, not a lot of production and at LSU. But I don't think that was an overwhelming need. They did pick up other picks. Now, this is where I kind of scratched my head. You get the first pick in the 2nd round and you go for Brian Quick? Really? I mean, that guy's raw. He's from Appalachian State. Name a wide receiver out of Appalachian State that's been successful. I got one for you, but he wasn't successful. He was actually a flop. His name was Dexter Jackson. The Buccaneers drafted him a couple years ago in the 2nd round. You get a guy that's a little bit bigger. He was productive, but it's the level of competition. You had a chance to get Ruben Randall. You didn't get him. You had a chance to get Stephen Hill. You weren't impressed by his 4.3 speed. You weren't impressed by his production at Georgia Tech. I know he didn't play in a pro-style offense, but he probably would have been a better pick. But they go out and get Brian Quick. So that's your receiver. He's going to help out Bradford. You get Chris Givens in the later rounds. You get Janoris Jenkins. I've been very clear about Janoris Jenkins. Anytime a player fails 5 drug tests, I'm not going to draft in the first 2 rounds. He's a supreme talent. He's great, and hopefully Jeff Fisher can get something out of him. Remember, Jeff Fisher drafted Adam Pac-Man Jones, supreme talent, but he had a little bit of character issues off the field. Remember, he made it rain. So, you know what? We'll see what happens with that. He could be the best cover corner in the draft, but he's got character issues, was given every chance at Florida and North Alabama. And we'll see how that works out. They go out and get Isaiah Peed, who could spell Steven Jackson as another running back out of Cincinnati, which was a good pickup. And they go out and get Chris Givens from Wake Forest to fill the wide receiver position also. So, you know, a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I would have done it differently, but, you know, I'm not a general manager. I'm just a fan, a football fan, a person that's done radio before, that appreciates the game. And I look at scouting reports, and I didn't understand some of these moves. You know, and you can go ahead and call me out on it. If you're a Rams fan, you can call me out on the Bucs moves. If you think the Buccaneers didn't make the right moves, tell me what you think. This is an interactive experience. It's not just my show, it's your show. You make it as good as it is. The Cincinnati Bengals, I thought they did very good. Very good draft. Drake Kirkpatrick from Alabama, going to solidify that corner position. They lost Jonathan Joseph a couple years ago. Devin Still, a defensive tackle out of Penn State, seems to work into that up-and-coming Cincinnati Bengal defense. Mohamed Sanu, this was a sad part. One of the sad stories in the draft, this guy actually got a prank call saying he was going to go to the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round. He didn't get to go there, but he goes there in the third round. So it was a happy ending. Whoever did that, get a life. He is a possession receiver. He's a big guy. He's going to be a complement to what A.J. Green is. You get Orson Charles, he's not a blocking tight end. I think that's kind of gone by the wayside also, a blocking tight end. Not in this league anymore. This is a passing league, and Orson Charles can be a weapon for their quarterback there. And they take a chance on a guy by the name of Vontaze Buffett, who, by some accounts, was a first and second round pick, but his slow 40 time, his terrible interviewing, they got him as an undrafted free agent. So all this could work out. He's basically a typical Cincinnati Bengal player. He's got some problems off the field, but he's got potential. So overall, I think they did had a good draft. They also drafted, I failed to mention it, but they got Kevin Zettler, who is a run blocking guard. They passed up on David DeCastro. So that was a good pick also. So they addressed some of their needs, and make no mistake about it, the Cincinnati Bengals are an upcoming team in that division. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, it's not just a two-team race anymore. I think Cincinnati is in that conversation. They made the playoffs last year. I think they're only going to get better. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they get it. They understand. They understand what it is to draft players that fit their system. They go out and get the best guard, and David DeCastro out of Stanford. Some people are comparing him to Alan Faneca. Other people are comparing him to Steve Hutchinson. If he's anything like those two guards, I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a great night's sleep, because this is why they made these moves, especially getting DeCastro to help their running game, but not only that, to protect Big Ben, to help our quarterback out. Another guy that they got in the offensive line, Mike Adams, an offensive tackle who had first-round talent but dropped because he failed a couple of drug tests before the combine. Had some problems off the field with the Ohio State situation, the tattoo situation. So they get a left tackle, they get a guard, and now you got the makings of a good offensive line, a great offensive line, the potential to be a great offensive line. They went into the draft understanding what they needed to do, how to make their team better. That's why every year they're a consistent playoff contender. And they go out and get a guy like Sean Spence, who could take over for James Harrison in the third round out of Miami. He can rush the passer. A Pittsburgh Steeler-type prototypical linebacker is going to get after the quarterback. That's what you have to have in this league. He may take over for James Harrison eventually. And you go out and get Chris Rainey, who is just unbelievably fast. He's your third down back. He could be your starting running back. I mean, that's how good he is with his speed. I don't know about his running back ability. I mean, he played in a weird type of offense, but you're not going to have Rashard Mendenhall back for the season, so he could get some looks in that starting rotation for running back. So he's a weapon that they can use. They definitely need that speed threat. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did a hell of a job. Another team that gets it, they understand, and they have the easiest schedule in the NFL, and the rich get richer. The New England Patriots. They go out and get Chandler Jones. He's the brother of John Jones, MMA champion. He's a pass rushing specialist. They get Dante Hightower, a linebacker from Alabama, who you're going to pair with Jared Mayo and Brandon Spikes. They understand what their weakness is. Their weakness is on defense, and they fill those needs. And then they go out in the 7th round and get a first or second round talent, most likely a second round talent, and Alfonso Denard from Nebraska. He's a guy that can be a press corner, can help that secondary out, and that was one of the worst defenses. I believe that was the worst defense in the NFL last year, and they still made the Super Bowl. So they get it. They understand. So you tell me, what team? Did I miss a team? Did your team do better than some of the teams that I listed? What do you think about the Buccaneers? Did they do everything that they were supposed to do? Tell me what you think about some of these suggestions, some of these teams that I thought did better than others. Some of them are still just leave me scratching my head. I just don't think they understand the process of the draft. I think you go into the draft trying to get better, and I think some of those teams that I named got better, and some of those teams, just, again, leave me shaking my head. What the hell were you thinking? So we had a suggestion a couple weeks ago from a person that watches this show on a weekly basis. Basketball. Well, the basketball playoffs, that's what we're going to talk about. The Miami Heat played the New York Knicks. I thought the New York Knicks were going to be one of these teams that could scare the Miami Heat. Carmelo Anthony was on a roll. But lo and behold, LeBron James, you hate him, you love him, this guy has come out and he's made a statement. Very clear. He wants to win a championship. And this team, the Miami Heat, is a great defensive team. I tell you what, that first game, you had to see the intensity with LeBron James. He was playing with it. He was also playing with going to the school of Karl Malone by flopping. He did a lot of that in the first game, but they've taken control of this series. It was a good win for the New York Knicks, but I think they're going to be done. I don't think they have enough. I think defensively they're not very good. And I think what sums up the whole year is Amari Stoudemire hurting himself, which this team seems like they've done all year long, by punching a fire extinguisher or something like that, hurting his hand and hurting this team. I'll tell you what, I think Woodson's done a good job, but I seriously think they need to go after Phil Jackson. I think he may be able to right this ship. They have too much talent. I will say this, Amari Stoudemire to me has been a big-time disappointment. Big time. I don't think he even works in this offense. Yeah, him and Carmelo Anthony, I think they kind of clash. And I think defensively, they have to get better. Tyson Chandler in the middle, that's fine. The problem with that is you paid Tyson Chandler so much money, so it's not like you have so much money to go out and fix this team in free agency again. You don't. So we'll see what happens. But I think this series right now is the Miami Heats. And I think this Eastern Conference could be the Miami Heats because the talent that they have and the way that LeBron James is playing. Now, I'll tell you this right now about the Miami Heat. And it became very apparent to me, and it's become very apparent to basketball fans all around the world that watch the NBA. Who is going to finish for this team? When this team is down by 2 points and they need a bucket, are they going to call LeBron James? Well, last game you would say no because he was not even in the play. Not even in the play. They have so much confidence in LeBron James. He's supposedly the best player on this team, and he's not even in the play. Wade takes the shot and misses it. I don't know if the Miami Heat really understand who's going to take the last shot. And I got to tell you, until LeBron James is able to take that last shot and have a killer instinct in him, I don't think he's going to be considered into that Jordan, into that Kobe. There's a reason why Kobe Bryant is the Black Mamba, because he finishes games. LeBron James cannot finish a game, and I don't think he wants to finish a game. I don't think he has that confidence. So that is going to be something in the playoffs that you need to watch. And if they do get to the finals, I think it's going to come up again. I think the Miami Heat anticipate trying to blow people out, play defense, and not have a close game. Because if they do have a close game, I think they could be in some trouble. The Chicago Bulls and the Philadelphia 76ers, and this was kind of like a throwaway series. I mean, a 1 versus an 8. Who would think that the Chicago Bulls would actually lose to the Philadelphia 76ers? And they very well still may pull off this series, but I don't think so. Anytime you lose Derrick Rose, and that was one of the things I said beginning of this NBA playoffs. If Derrick Rose was healthy for this team, they could go a long way. But he's not. And I really got to question the decision by Tom Thibodeau with a player that has been injured all year long. Why are you keeping him out there in the fourth quarter when the game is decided? Why? He is your superstar player, and you're keeping him out there in a game that has already been decided. So now you lose Derrick Rose for the year. You lose Joakim Noah for an extended period of time. And really, this is not the regular season. This is the playoffs. And the Philadelphia 76ers, even though they are an 8th seed, they are an underdog that has something to prove. And they have a lot of talent. Iguodala is being one of their superstars. You know, Jrue Holiday. They have plenty of talent. Evan Turner. And they have a coach that has made them buy into this whole experience all year long. So it's not really a shock that they're giving the Bulls everything they want. And honestly, I think this series is over. And I think, again, the Heat have every opportunity to win the Eastern Conference because the Chicago Bulls probably had the best opportunity to beat the Miami Heat. But now losing Derrick Rose for the year, for the series, and losing Noah, I think those plans are definitely going to be on the back burner. Now, the Boston Celtics and the Atlanta Hawks. I think a lot of people thought that the Atlanta Hawks were an upstart team, and they very well may be. But it seems like the same old song every year. You know, we get excited about the Hawks, and then they don't really do anything. They beat the Magic in the first round last year, and then really don't do anything after that. You know, Boston Celtics left for dead, so old. You know, they're getting older. Well, they add Brandon Bass from the Orlando Magic. Glenn Davis gets traded to the Magic. They get Brandon Bass. They add Avery Bradley for defensive purposes. They move Kevin Garnett to the 5, and he's reinvigorated. He's found his game again. He's supposed to be a free agent at the end of this year. He's played well. They still have Paul Pierce. They were considering trading Rajon Rondo to the LA Lakers for Paul Gasol, but yet he's still on this team. Why? Why does this team do well every year? Because 1, they play defense. And 2, they still have talent. No matter how old they are, they can give any team in the NBA fits because they can play defense and they have guys that can be great in the clutch. And Kevin Garnett is one of those guys. And I think we're right now on a collision course for the Miami Heat